Hello and welcome, my friends, to Iron Marines. Today we're going to talk about every single enemy in the game and how to best defeat them. Now, I gotta say that when I first played through the game on Impossible, I still didn't really understand how to beat all the enemies in the best slash most efficient way. So I want to kind of give you guys my input on it and let you guys know what I think about them. So starting off, we've got the Fel Plague. Now these guys have light armor, medium range, and they're just a low-ranking soldier in the Fel army. They do kind of tend to come in big bunches, though. So how do we kill them? Well, pretty much any unit can kill them, pretty easily at that. But the best thing for them, because they come in gigantic groups, is usually the Flame Walker. Now, as you guys probably know, I don't like the mechas all that much, so I tend to not use the Flame Walker, and I just say screw it, I'm going to use my Rangers as much as possible and kind of toss in some group damage whenever I can with heroes like Paragon, or if you have any other of your special abilities going on. So these guys are really easy to take down, really not that difficult. Obviously the threat is low, so you're not going to have too many problems against them pretty much at all. Next guys over here are the Vile Runners. Now, they're pretty much the same thing. Threat low, melee combat, no armor. You're not going to have problems with them at all. Seriously, the only time they get a little bit troublesome is when they come in gigantic packs, which doesn't happen very often at all. But if you are having any problems with them, make sure you use the flamethrowers or any sort of marines whatsoever. Just make sure you're uh, uh, standing in place. Sometimes you can try and run through an entire pack of them, and it'll start chasing you and get a big bundle of them, kind of like zombies. So you got to be careful with them. But overall, they're not that easy. They don't kill you pretty much at all. Now, the Grim Crushers, these guys are the first time we're actually going to have to fight some decently difficult enemies. Ferocious and able to withstand most attacks due to the great armor and health. So this is pretty important here, guys. These are the first guys with health and really good armor. And the armor is the real problem with these guys. It's not the health. So I'm probably going to make another video talking about armor just a little bit, but for a quick note in here, just know that the best way to deal with armor is usually really, really strong units, whether it's snipers or something like Guardians. Guardians have a great damage against armored units. So, and on top of that, Guardians have good damage against ranged units as well. They get a bonus damage. So make sure you're using your Guardians pretty much whenever you see any Grim Crushers. There's not much else that's going to take them down very easily. Even snipers take a little while to take them down. Um, and they also have high melee damage, so trying to micro around them can be a little bit difficult. Moving on though, these guys are actually not too bad at all. We've got Fel Swarm. These guys are the quote-unquote first stage in the life cycle of the Fel. Only problem with them again is big groups of them. And how do you deal with that? Well, either just micro around just a little bit with some Marines or something like that, or pop in a frickin' flamethrower. Flame walkers can just slice through these things. Now, another thing is they can't even damage any of your flame walkers or anything. Well, they can, but like very, very low damage, guys. Your buildings, it's going to take them like 3 days to take those things down. So don't worry about them for anything but your units. Um, and even with your units, it still takes them a long time to take them down. So these guys just seem like they're total crap, and you don't need to worry about them at all. Yeah, threat very low. This is important. Now, ooh, here we go. So this is the first enemy in the game where I was like, wow, this is probably almost too overpowered. You know, Ironhide usually does a pretty good job of making really annoying enemies, and this is one of those ones that I'm just like, yep, they did a good job because this is an annoying unit. They got quote unquote high damage, armor piercing attack, and they've got a long ranged attack. So that means they're pretty much doing max damage every single shot they do, no matter what. Doesn't matter what kind of units you got, they're gonna slice right through them. So you got to take them down fast, and usually the best way to take them down fast is just to get up in their face and just slice through them a little bit. Guardians do a pretty good job against them. Any sort of hand attack hero does a good job against them. Anything else is gonna have a little bit of a struggle fest with them. Now snipers do outrange them, so the snipers can take them down, but they still just kind of tend to just move so fast and kind of run in so quickly that the snipers still can't even kill them in time, especially because they come in groups of three a lot. They don't usually come by themselves. They come in groups of three for some reason. I'm not sure why. But their threat is quote-unquote moderate. I would agree with that. They are pretty devastating, but you can still take them down with a couple swift attacks to them. As far as best units to use, again, anything that you just get up close and personal with, Guardians. Flamewalker's a little bit too slow to do any real good damage to them, but any sort of hand attack hero is going to be amazing. Like Paragon, destroys these freaking things. Fel Wings, these are another kind of crappy unit that you don't really have to worry about all that much, except for the fact that they come in such gigantic groups. They come in even bigger groups than the the ground units. You know. So make sure whenever you see a big group of Felwing, you either got a decent amount of ranged, attackers, decent amount of Marines, some snipers, or of course a Shell Storm. Shell Storms just annihilate these things. They do group damage to the air units as well, so they can just slowly destroy them all. These guys have no armor, and they are aerial, obviously. I don't know if you guys can tell, Felwing. But they're aerial, and they've got a fast attack speed as well, so they can slice through units pretty reasonably quickly. Um, if you don't change your units out correctly, like if you're just walking around with a Flame Walker, they're just going to slice that thing down like nothing. So you gotta be a little careful with that. Make sure you're switching your units out just a little bit to be efficient. Other than that, you won't have any problems with these Felwing. They're still a fair. They say they're a moderate threat. I would disagree with that. I'd say they're more of a low threat, but not a no threat. The next thing is a Hammer Grub. So this is something that a lot of people are like, dude, these mother effing slug monsters, they kept running in, just killing all my buildings. What do I do against them, Chris? Yeah, these things kind of suck. There's no good way to take them down because they have heavy armor. Ooh, another heavy armor unit. Oh, crap. Got to touch on that just a little bit here. Um, because they have heavy armor, again, the best thing for them is snipers or a hand attack unit like a Guardian. Everything else is not going to do all that much damage against them. Plus, on top of that, it kind of sucks because any unit that's on top of them is going to get damaged by them. So you might be thinking, oh, they only attack structures, but they can still hurt units by being on top of them. Their thorny stuff will damage any units in their path. So overall, they're not a huge problem, but you do have to target them pretty quickly. And if you have them on top of some spitterbugs or some other, random, decently good ranged units, they can become a pretty good problem. Tank on top of ranged equals dangerous. So they say the threat is high. I wouldn't necessarily say the threat is high, but they can cause some problems for you if you don't deal with them in an efficient manner. Next, we have the Ether Leech, quite possibly the most annoying enemy in the game. The Ether Leech. Good thing they only really come on a few rounds. 7. I think they come on 6. Never mind. They come on quite a few levels. 6, 5, 6, and 7. I think are the only levels that they come on. Maybe 4. Yeah, they come on 4 too. So 4, 5, 6, and 7 are the only levels that the Ether Leeches come out on. But in those levels, they are pretty annoying. Threat, well, they don't really do very much damage. Like, that's not the problem. But if you got a big group of enemies coming in here on top of an Ether Leech, they're sucking all your elixir away, and then you got nothing to repair or redo your units. Just kind of like you freaking lose the game, which is really annoying. I find them to be a sort of maybe poorly designed unit, or like too hard of a unit almost. It's like it's really punishing. That's the best way to think about it. Like if you ever let these things get in your base and there's too many units, you're done. There's nothing you can do about it. Just game over, bro. So what they do is they actually have two different attacks. They have an attack that disables towers, and then they siphon it off. The nice thing is they usually disable the tower first and then siphon it off, so you get at least a little bit of time to react with them with some units. But as you can see over here, steals Ether Watch, disables towers, and it's an aerial enemy as well, which means not all your units can attack. Best way to deal with them, Shell Storms, Marines, and Snipers. Anything with ranged attacks is usually pretty good. Shell Storms are really powerful against these guys because they have so much range and everything, but if there's a bunch of units around them as well, the Shell Storms can start to attack the wrong units, which can be really upsetting. Even though they're supposed to target aerial units first, sometimes they don't do a perfect job of that, and these Ether Leeches can just overwhelm you and just really suck. So these guys are freaking annoying, if you can't tell. That's why I gave a big speech about them. Mindbanes. Here's another fairly annoying enemy, but you can deal with them if you know how. And what you got to do is not keep a gigantic group of guys. I've learned this the hard way. As you guys know, I did a lot of grouped running through the entire level with just a bunch of channelers on impossible difficulty in the late levels. But in the early levels, you really can't do that quite so easily. Your rangers are just not tanky enough to do that. So if you ever get like 2 or 3 of these Mindbanes who just do a charge and run in and just do a bunch of group damage, you can actually lose every single one of your units in that group, and it can be really upsetting. So the good thing is they have no armor, but they do an area damage. And like I said, they're not really that devastating with one of them. But when you have like 3 or 4 of them at once, they just all charge in, do a grouped area attack, and they can kill every single one of your units in that group. So all you got to do is keep your guys separated just a little bit. This requires a little bit more micro to do that instead of double tapping. You have to individually move every single unit, but that'll keep your guys a little bit safe. And another way to do this is to put a tank in the front, maybe a Shell Storm or a Flame Walker or something like that, and then leave all your groups of Rangers kind of behind them. So I do kind of keep in mind the fact that Mind Banes don't exist really late in the game. Like after level 7, I don't think they exist anymore. Even level 8, I don't think they're even on. So I always talk about them in terms of units that you can actually use on those levels. Like, you can't use Channelers against Mind Banes, obviously. But yeah, they're really not that devastating if you know how to deal with them. Just don't make group units too much. Now here we go, we got a Dire Bomber. So these guys really aren't as bad as they probably seem. They say the threat level's high, but as long as you're willing to micro just a little bit, you should be fine. I think the biggest problem with them is the fact that if you have a couple other units in front of them, they can just sit behind all of them and just launch crap at you the entire time. On top of that, they can actually outrange turrets. So if you don't get your turrets upgraded high enough, or if you don't have any units to come support them, they can just sit back behind and just launch a bunch of crap at your turrets and eventually kill them. So that's something that has to be dealt with quite quickly if you were defending a base. As you can see, area damage, attacks over barriers, and very long range. Now this is something that a lot of people probably still don't even understand. Attacks over barriers, what the heck does that mean? It means that a lot of units in the game cannot attack over barriers. If there's anything that's kind of in the way, whether it's a rock or a wall or something else, your units can't shoot through it. So you're going to have to walk around it. These guys don't have to worry about that. They can just launch it in any direction. As long as they're in their range, they can just launch things and shoot people. So that can be kind of annoying to not even have like the ability to see them and have them just launching crap at you. Best way to deal with them, run up, kill them. Guardians are amazing against them. Paragon does a great job against them. You can still move in with like a couple ranged units as well and still attack them. And you also, another great thing is you can actually dodge their attacks. So doing like a bit of an attack move, which is kind of like a high tier thing that you probably shouldn't even need to do on a mobile game, but you can do like a quick attack move and you can dodge all of his attacks and still kill this guy. So if you're amazing at the game, this should work out wonderfully for you. Next up, we get the Blight Mothers. Oh, god. These things just look really freaking gross. Like, I definitely would never want to fight one of those things in real life or see one of those things in real life. I might throw up. They have that, yeah, look at that, grotesque matriarch. They did a good job of making it look really, really gross looking. Huge aerial breeder that tosses unhatched eggs to the ground, creating long-lasting pools of corrosive goo. So the most annoying thing about the Blight Mother is the fact that he does have corrosive glue. Throws it on people, they move a little bit slower, and you get damaged from it. Another thing is that they can usually do a lot of damage to your grouped units, so like Rangers and stuff, they don't do as good as you probably would like them to. So the way I deal with them is because I use Paragon a lot. I pop Paragon underneath him, he just goes slice, slice, slice. Put a couple Rangers Rangers or Snipers kind of behind them, and they can just take him down to nothing. Guardians can't attack them. I don't know really why they put Guardians in this picture, but Guardians can't attack them. They are flying units, and Guardians can't do any aerial attacks whatsoever. Another thing to note is that on death, they do spawn Fel Wings, but like that doesn't matter at all. They're really easy to take down. The Blight Mother is the real problem. And the only thing that's really the problem with the Blight Mother is, again, that goo. So dodge the goo as much as you possibly can, put somebody underneath them, and let everybody attack from a distance, and you're going to be really, really happy. Next, we've got a Bishop. So this is the first boss in the game, or the first guy that I thought was a boss in the game. It's got quote-unquote superb health, deals massive damage, and it's a long-range and melee combatter. I used to do a Marine, like, ball sort of thing. I would kind of mix them up just a little bit, keep them just like a few inches away from each other and whatnot. And then I realized pretty quickly that's not the way to do it, man. Use the Guardians. The Guardians do massive damage to bosses. I learned that a little bit too late after I made my video, and I kind of regret it just a little bit. So what I highly recommend doing is just using 3 or 4 sets of Guardians and then 1 set of Diplomats. And all you gotta do after that is just kind of watch him crumble. Make sure you're kind of in your base, though. Having extra turrets to help attack is definitely going to be nice. But overall, he's not even that difficult if you just use a bunch of Guardians. And use your hero just a little bit as well. Even on Impossible, he's not that hard. The next enemy is a Fel Tyrant. So this is the next boss. He's like the bigger boss. So wait, what was the... Okay, so the threat level on this guy's only very high. Threat level on this Fel Tyrant is extreme. So he's got fast regeneration and Mega Blast. I found that the Fel Tyrant doesn't even really deserve to be talked about all that much. He takes a long time to kill. They made it so it's like impossible to speedrun him. No matter what, it's going to take pretty much the same amount of time to kill him no matter what. It seems like it's right around 15 minutes to take him down. Or like 15 minutes to take down the entire map. I didn't really have anything to say about him. I feel like it's pretty easy to understand. Just dodge his arms, dodge his balls, and you're going to be happy. Make sure you're using a double tap to move all your units at once, though. It's going to help out so gosh darn much. Moving on, we're finally on to the next world up in here. So we're going to talk about an entire new group of units over here. The Jackbot. So, the weirdest thing about these guys, threat variable. What does that mean? That doesn't make much sense, guys. No, it doesn't make all that much sense. But really, what we're looking at here is the fact that the bigger groups they have of them, the harder they are to take down. So, well, let's read it really quick. Other Perforoids can improve them, turning a nuisance into a formidable opponent. So, improved by the Perforoids. So, what you got to do is just make sure they don't group up too much. If you ever see a big group of 500 of them, holy crap, dude, make sure you take them down as fast as possible. Drop your hero in, use through all their special abilities, drop your drop turret in, send all of your units over there, make sure you take them down before they end up making a big, gigantic army of them. Another thing is if a builder comes in, right after you killed a bunch of them, they can just rebuild those robots and just take them all in for an even bigger rush afterwards. So be a little bit careful of that. These are going to be the main form of enemies for the next, 6 levels, though. So make sure you understand them pretty well before you want to run into these levels. Next, we've got the Noir Tron. So the Noir Tron is I call him the Knuckle Brother. Or at least sometimes I do. It looks like he's got, crazy fists up in here. And he's got, a really cool-looking attack. And he does, a spin attack, too. So... for some odd reason, though, it doesn't say a threat level on this guy. It looks like everybody's got a threat level except for the Noir Tron. Okay, I guess if that's what you want to do, Noir Tron. If a robot could have a bad temper, that's Noir Tron, hard plates, heavy fists, and a powerful whirlwind attack. He's got melee combat, but the main thing is that he's got heavy armor. So, again, anything that's good against armored units is going to be best. Some Guardians are pretty good. At this point, you can start to use your, I forget the name of them, the green mechas, the super powerful green mechas that do hand attack. Those guys are pretty good as well just because they can tank so easily. And with the tankage, you also get some pretty solid attacks in there as well. I think those guys ignore some of the armor, so they do a pretty good amount of damage to these guys. Other than that, best way to deal with them is to kind of put one guy in the front to kind of tank all the damage, whether it's one of those green guys or your hero, and then put everybody behind them and just let them get sliced down to nothing. Channelers are really good against them. And a mixture of snipers and engineers are also pretty good against them as well, if you want to. The system monitors. These guys are probably one of the most annoying guys in the game, on par with the Ether Leech. They repair assembly centers, and they heal jackbots. So they're kind of just like the I hate you thing in the game. The assembly centers can really suck because once they get a group of them in there, they just regroup them and then they send out even more peripheroids. So you get just these gigantic groups of enemies coming in once these system monitors start to kind of take over the map like that. Beyond that, though, they also heal the jackbots. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna kill them just sort of slowly over time, right? Wrong. You got to go in hard on these guys. Another thing that's really annoying about them is that they have these crazy long missile attacks that can hurt anybody from frickin' anywhere. So I find them to, and on top of that, if you start running away after they are almost killing you, they'll still end up shooting another one at you and just sidewind the crap out of it. Excuse me, and they'll just randomly hit you and kill you. So really upsetting. These guys suck. No good way to deal with them. Just kind of walk in there with your Guardians or your hero or your whatever and just kill them as fast as possible. They're another one of those things that are kind of like spitter bugs. Gotta take them down quick before you get big groups of them. Oculus, though, these guys aren't really that bad. I found them to be not as annoying as a lot of people make them out to be. They transform into jackbots if you let them, but luckily we don't have to worry about that all that much. If you see any like parts on the ground, don't let the Oculus get to them, because then they will turn into the jackbots, and then you get a little bit stronger unit to deal with. Doesn't happen all that often, but it can happen. They are also aerial enemies, so obviously, like they're saying right here, don't use the flamethrower, guys. Use either Marines, snipers, channelers, or just about anything to take these guys down. They're really, really weak. But honestly, channelers aren't that good against them because the channelers do more damage over time. But I tend to like them so much just because they're so ranged, they really don't even do that much damage to me. Next, we got the Taskmaster. So this is actually a really important guy to understand how to take him down, guys. He takes damage to the structures. That's something to really, really easily overlook. It's also kind of difficult to understand what the heck that even means. Like, what do we do? What do we do now? Okay, so these heavy structures are capable of producing a steady torrent of Oculus as they slowly move across the battlefield. A single Taskmaster can turn a junkyard into an army of brand new jackbots. Well, yeah. So, one thing to note is that they only spawn Oculus if you don't have somebody within the range of their shock attack. So, put somebody that's sort of tanky in the range of their shock attack and leave a couple other guys kind of out of the shock attack to kill them. What I like to do is I like to put one set of Guardians kind of inside of the Taskmaster just to chop him up a little bit, and then put a bunch of Channelers or other things kind of behind him and attack. Another way you can do that is just send in like 5 sets of Guardians just all at once and just slice him to pieces really, really quickly. The best way to take these guys down is definitely with Guardians. Something that I, again, learned a little bit late in my my video making, and I didn't get to show that on my Impossible walkthrough, but I highly recommend it. Guardians do boss damage against these Taskmasters, and there's not really that much else that does do massive damage to them. So, yeah. I would make these guys threat very high. They suck really bad, man. I don't like them at all. Man, they're really difficult to deal with. Inductors, these guys are crap. Don't even worry about it, man. They do sneak up on your guys and they do some decent damage, but honestly, as soon as they pop out of the ground, you're just like, whatever, dead. So don't worry about them too much. Their threat level is low. Yeah, they're just whatever. Inductors. Surge Protectors, though, these guys are bad. Oh, gosh. These guys are bad. As you can plainly see in the picture right here, one of the best ways to deal with them is the Channeler. So make sure you're using Channelers against these guys. Big groups of Channelers are probably the best way to deal with them. Guardians tend not to work out all that well. They work out okay, but like not all that well. And then any sort of regular army people are not going to work. Snipers, Rangers, they're going to poop on. This guy's going to poop on their face. So be careful with them. They're huge, powerful, and mean. They engage, launching strong. Launching strong plasma grenades and projecting strong shields over jackbots and themselves. Attacks over barriers, heavy armor, and cast shields. Holy crap. Everything just sounds ridiculous, dude. So the good news is, Ironhide was a little bit nice to us, and they didn't send out very many Surge Protectors with a bunch of other random bots with them. It doesn't happen very often, so you don't have to worry about them all that much. As giant combos of ridiculousness. But you do have to worry about them. Every once in a while, you will find some of these guys, and the best way to take them down is to just channelize the crap out of them. Make sure when you're using your channelers, though, they do more damage over time, so you just want to kind of leave them there until you take at least one of these guys down, then you can retreat, heal up, and come back to the exact same thing again. There's really no easy way to deal with these guys. Because they have heavy armor, you have to use things that are going to do incremental damage, so engineers or channelers are the best. Even snipers don't even do that much damage against them because of their shield. So yeah, again, no easy way to deal with them. You just sort of have to slowly take them down until they eventually get turned into a crispy little pile of psychic dust. And we're just about done, guys. I know, a long video. I wasn't expecting to take this long to explain stuff. Spammers, oh snap. These guys suck too. Yeah, I know, I'm talking about all these sucky enemies, right? They're aerial, they retreat when damaged, and they spawn inductors. Those are the things we need to know. Inductors aren't that painful, though, so we don't have to worry about them that much, right? Except when you're building a bunch of snipers in your map. So level 12, this is aimed at you, man. If you build too many snipers and you group them all together, these spammers will build a bunch of inductors, send them underground, pop up on your snipers, take them all down. So, you got to be a little bit careful that you don't put all of your units kind of grouped together, especially your weak units that are defending things. Other than that, though, they can get taken down by snipers or Anything that can attack air, the mecha that can attack air, he does a pretty good job as well. The shell storms, they can take him down, but again, because they're sort of fast and they sort of retreat after their damage, the shell storms end up not doing as great of a job. The snipers seem to be the real kings at taking down the spammers. Other than that, I really can't say all that much against them. Uh, what else? If you get big groups of them, you're probably going to get overrun. That's the sad thing about it. They're called spammer for a reason. If you get like 2 or 3 of these guys in a single location, they will spam the crap out of you, take all your units down, disable everything, and just kill you. So that's really upsetting. Alright, getting down to the nitty gritty here, guys. The Suppressor. They've got low health, but they do massive damage with their attack. So what they do is obviously they put the 2 hands together, they build up a nice Kamehameha, and then they shoot it at you, and then you basically instantly die. Pretty much every unit will instantly die. Now the nice thing is, bigger squads don't have that much of a problem, because you can just rebuild your units by the time you get back over here. They attack so gosh darn slow. But you do have to be careful in spots where you really can't reach them very easily. Like I know on level 13, there's an area right from the get-go, like kind of south to the southeast. There's an area where they just kind of spawn, and if you don't leave somebody over there or leave some snipers to take them down, they're just going to slowly snipe your guys and take them all down. So be careful with that. Other than that, they're really not very difficult at all. Make sure you pick up your hero, drop them on top, drop your drop guns on top, and you should be good. I think drop guns are probably the easiest way to deal with them, but the hero works just as well. Snipers work okay, but again, you got to be a little careful with them. They don't work out perfectly every single time. Now, this is the last enemy, Mr. Robo70, the final boss. I think the best way to explain him is by watching my final video. I've got an impossible walkthrough for you guys. I think I did a pretty good job explaining on how to beat him. He is an extreme threat. I think it should be a super extreme threat, because we already saw an extreme threat with the boss on level 8. So this guy spawns Sentinels, which are different than Oculuses, by the way, or Oculi. These guys are the Sentinels, the guys that kind of spawn around him. I think he also spawns ground Sentinels as well, which is kind of important to keep in mind. Overall, he's not that difficult once you get your guys up. But the problem is getting your guys up fast enough. That's the hard part, getting them up and actually making them survive. Other than that, watch my video and you're going to be happy. And that's going to be, all we're going to have for today, guys. That's it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you press that like button for me. I'd appreciate that a bunch. If you have any other cool ideas for me to make videos on, I will gladly make them. I still think I got a couple more ideas to do, but I want to pop them out for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and have a super duper delicious day.